Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
I make a motion to adjourn this.
Excuse me a minute. Did we have enough?
No, you only had 3 to vote.
Oh,
I voted. Oh,
These 3 voted.
well, it's only majority.
Motion to reconvene?
Motion,
Okay.
that passes.
The city attorney has a,
Well, not, okay. So the motion would be following executive session to authorize the approval of an IGA with Fulton County as proposed by Fulton County, subject, however, to further negotiations that will be permitted through the city attorney and the city manager.
Can someone make that motion from the dais? If you would write it out.
I make a motion to authorize the city attorney and city manager to further negotiate the terms of the IGA proposed by Fulton County.
Well, to approve the agreement, subject to further negotiation.
To approve the agreement, subject to further negotiations for the transfer of property.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
I have discussion. I believe that Councilwoman Gilliard had a question. I wonder if we could just table this till later in the meeting when she is here. She went to the restroom, and I want to make sure her question gets answered before we vote on this very important IGA.
Second.
So, I mean, I'm sorry, there's a motion on the floor, but
So it's
I'm
been
asking if
seconded.
we could.
She's coming. Yeah, if we can just-
Coming up the stairs.
Coming.
She's coming up the stairs.
Okay. So, Mayor, you gonna call for discussion? It's been second.
And Councilwoman Gilliard, the motion on the floor is to approve the IGA with Fulton County with respect to the property dispute, settling the property dispute subject to further negotiation by the city attorney and the city manager.
Okay, all right.
And we're in discussion. We were awaiting your comments.
Oh, it was about the South Fulton Annex. My question was about that, but I got my question answered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Let us vote. That passes unanimously.
now you can adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the work session.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That passes. Clerk.
You can call the meeting to order.
I'm calling the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Roll call for February 11th. Councilmember Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Khalid.
Present.
Councilmember Reeves. He said present. Councilmember Gilliard. Here. Councilmember Willis. Present. Councilmember Gumbs. Councilmember Rao.
Present.
Also present is Mayor Edwards, City Manager Mr. Donald, City Attorney Ms. Walker. You have a quorum.
Okay. We're going to have someone here do the invocation for Pastor. You are the one? Okay. We have our invocation by one of our new chaplains.
Amen. Thank you, Mayor.
Let us stand.
Thank you. Is it on? I hear it now. Good evening, everyone. Let us pray. Dear wise and loving Father, first let me thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of help we need to fulfill our callings, for substance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thank you as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us so. From the boundless and gracious, grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times. Grant them a sense of welfare and true needs of our people. Grant them a keen thirst for justice and for rightness. Grant them confidence in what is good and fitting. Grant them the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. Grant them peace in their lives and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give them an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in the city of South Fulton. It is with your most blessed name I pray. Amen. Let us pledge the allegiance. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Madam Clerk.
Mayor and Council, are there any changes to the council agenda?
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Are we talking about the regular agenda or the consent agenda?
Everything, the whole agenda.
So I would like to remove the council approval of the senior legacy resolution, to have that hold for, till further notice.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to move the council approval of the resolution designating the legal org into the regular agenda, because I can't amend it as...
Yes, ma'am.
Can I amend it now?
No.
Okay. So I'd like to move that to the regular agenda as the first thing under agenda items.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The entire agenda, including the consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I would like to add an appointment to the Parks and Recs Board. There's a resume on file with the clerk's office for Rodney Jones.
Okay. Anything else?
Anything else? No.
Somebody that's already on it. Oh, and I would like to pull. Well, actually, can I ask a question about the consent agenda first, or do I just have to pull something?
You can ask a question.
Is there a resume on file for the vacancy fill for the Development Authority? Well.
Yeah, and I sent it to you.
Okay. All right. I'm clear. Just that thing for Jones.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Any other changes?
That's it.
Okay. Need a motion?
I move that we approve consent agenda for Tuesday.
No, ma'am. Approve the council agenda with the changes.
Okay, I move that we approve the council agenda with changes for Tuesday, February 11, 2020.
Second.
Properly moved and second in discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes.
Next on the agenda is council approval of city council minutes, work session minutes, January 28th.
I make a motion to approve the council work session minutes as well as the council regular meeting minutes from January 28th, 2020.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes.
I didn't see but 3 hands. Thank you.
Put your hand down. Is that a yeah or nay?
Next is public comments. Speakers will be granted a total of 2 minutes each, and public comments will not exceed 30 minutes. Speakers will not be allowed to yield or donate their time to other speakers. Speakers must identify themselves and their address prior to speaking. Speakers may only address the presiding officer, shall observe all rules of decorum. No debate, disrespect, or obscenities shall be tolerated. The presiding officer shall rule any such individual out of order that fails to comply with the foregoing. Mayor and council, we have 5 public comments. As I call your name, please step to the podium. Annette Cooper, Michael Venable, Juliet Rankins, Glenda Collins, and Pamela Harris. Please remember to state your name and address.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Annette Cooper. My address is 125 Foxley Drive in College Park, Georgia. I am here tonight to bring your attention to a cancer in my neighborhood that appears to have no treatment and continues to infiltrate and metastasize to other organs, namely my home and my neighborhood. That is the property at 135 Foxley Drive, College Park, Georgia, 30349. This property was foreclosed on approximately 2008 during the housing crisis when this family vacated the property after living there for 30 years. No one has cut the grass or done anything with this property. It has remained unkept, abandoned, uninhabitable. It has become the community dumpster for garbage, trash, furniture, toilet bowl fittings, etc. On May 25, 2015, there was a fire at this property that, again, totally destroyed it. And last week, Thursday, March the 6th, during the storms, a tree from this property fell on my home at 125 and caused damage to the roof and other major damage, which I have to incur the expenses based on my insurance. This property is well known to code enforcement. In spite of their efforts, their citations, their hearings, numerous fines and liens, there has been no resolution.
Thank you. Thank you. We got you.
Michael Venable, 5720 Montelli Circle, District 6. First of all, I want to make a point about the advertisement of city business in the South Fulton neighbor. South Fulton neighbor has totally abandoned the old National Corridor. I realize there's probably no other way to go about to doing that one in there, but that's just something that needs to be brought to attention for that. This next one that you're passing out that you're getting is an advertisement for the old National Marketplace. You know, last session we had when we talked about people approving different things that are not supposed to be there, personal care, massages, hair care, all of that types of thing. Councilman Reeves asked about that. Well, how did that happen so long and so hard? I want you to look at this. Look at the place to where I put the yellow marking. We're talking about braids by Siri. Personal hair care things are banned on that property. Look at the big sign with the Beauty Master. That's also there. Been there with years that no one never acts upon. Now, that should have been a wake-up call last time when we had this big thing come about with the massage parlor, but apparently that's not. This is getting out of control, that we're just letting anything come that we want to. Then we'll come back and look at the proposal put up for the economic and strategic and land use plan, and they talked about, well, we need to relax restrictions in the old National Corridor. No, we don't. This is why it's gotten the way it was. It's because we don't do the job that we're supposed to do. Mr. Mayor, you were right. Government will and has failed us.
Juliet Rankins, District 4. And I wanted to follow up with the question I had asked Councilwoman Gumbs. Councilwoman Gumbs said she was in favor of gentrification, and we're hearing a lot of things about housing, development, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like gentrification is a short or easy out to a problem that is like big and deep and long, because Fulton County didn't do for us for over decades. Okay, so we got some deep, long, big problems. And I think gentrification is like an easy way out, trying to have somebody else solve your problem. The definition of gentrification is the process of rebuilding a deteriorating area accompanied by an influx of affluent people, and that often results in the displacement of earlier, usually poor residents. And that's what I don't want to see. I understand Councilwoman Gumbs says she has a place, and my question for Councilwoman Gumbs is, where is that place? You say you need it somewhere in the city, Councilwoman Gumbs. Where is it? What places are you going to gentrify, Councilwoman Gumbs? Since your agenda is to gentrify parts of the city, Councilwoman Gumbs, where? So I'm sure you'll answer that question, because before you said there are some places that need to be gentrified. So I just want to hear that. And I want to commend Councilman Khalid, because he's trying to tear down the blighted properties. He's trying to come up with a solution to tear down some of these houses that have been there for years and decades in people's subdivisions, and people are complaining about them. So I just think he needs to follow through, stay on top of that, get the job done, come up with a way to do it that will be groundbreaking, and other people can use that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Glenda Collins, District 5, 3740 Morning Creek Drive, representing the Fairwood area. I would like to discuss the blighted property, and I understand that the funds were not on the budget line as of 2019, but they're there now. So we need to be given a criteria as to what is blighted property and how soon it will be taken care of. Another thing is the potholes. There are many potholes, and I know it's been raining a lot. However, when the potholes are filled, the material does not seem to hold up, because when you drive across them a few times, the holes sink in. And then we are stuck with other potholes. There are potholes everywhere. And as a matter of fact, there was a day the sun was out, and I just happened to see someone that worked and filled potholes. And I just knew that that pothole would be filled that afternoon when I returned. But after riding back and when I got there, the pothole still remained. So we need to create a pothole posse so that we can get some of these pothole fills, because they are damaging our cars and our tires. Thank you.
Thank you.
I second that.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Pamela Harris. I live in District 1, Montclair Estates. And I touched on this on my last visit. I'm very much concerned about the sterilization services location on off of Fulton Industrial. It's 6005 Boat Rock. It's like 4 miles from where you all work. It's 3.5 miles from A. Philip Randolph. And that particular property is emitting ethylene oxide, which is cancerous. And so I feel like this is really an emergency, and I'm hoping that, that we have some attention on that. Also, Mayor, thank you so much for helping us, look at the situation where all the traffic is convening. I made a call to someone downtown, And they said, well, unfortunately, unless someone dies, they won't be putting another stop sign. But I just wanted to let you know that. And also, I heard that we may be getting a horse racing track and possibly casinos. And if that's so, I'm just wondering where it would go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I haven't heard that.
Mayor and council, that ends public comments. Next on the agenda is council comments.
Now, public comments closed.
She just brought this card up.
I'll come on. I'll let you speak.
Mayor, quickly, Mr. Reeves says he can't hear.
It's not on mute.
Go right ahead.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, council members. First of all, let me ask, this is a comment that I'm going to do, or would you rather for me to wait until you have the clarification of date of the zoning change from AG1 to C2 on Jonesboro? Would you rather for me to wait then?
I think, is that a zoning change?
Yeah.
No, but it's not a public hearing. It's just for discussion for council.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I'll be quick about this.
Give your name and everything now.
Okay.
For the record.
Okay. Pamela Harvey, District 3. And I would like to say that I was District 3's commissioner, and on the petition brought in by Mr. Kelly regarding AG1 to C2 Z19-005, Commissioner Alvin Reynolds and myself voted against that, and this for the following reasons. Number one, Mr. Kelly presented a somewhat dodgy case, had no commitments. Other than that, it would have been an environmental disaster. I went out there to the area myself, took pictures, photographs of all angles, went to the Bethesda property where those lovely homes are. I took a picture from that site to the planned area where they wanted to put a quote-unquote Volvo car lot and quote-unquote high-end restaurants, and it didn't look good. Now, one has to ask oneself, they had a Volvo, 2 minutes already?
Give her 10 more seconds, because she didn't know where she was going.
Okay, thank you.
Give her 10 more seconds.
Thank you. Okay. They had a Volvo about 1.5 miles away, ran out of business. So one has to ask oneself, why do you want to put another one 1.5 miles away? Translation, what they want to do is put in a used car lot. Read my lips, used car lot. Mr. Kelly came in here the last time with his wife and changed his language to a Volvo-like business.
Okay, Ms.
Used car lot. Thank you very much for listening. Please deny this petition.
Yes, ma'am.
Next is council comments.
I just want to
go right ahead.
I mean, I don't have to have a comment. I just wanted to respond.
Mr. Baker, before you start, my screen is not working, so I'm going to be working off paper when you raise your hand.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Well, I don't know if we're going to forego. I just wanted to make just a point of personal privilege. I have the reason that that's on the agenda is because I've had several conversations with Mr. Kelly, and we're going to have community meetings in regards to that property on Jonesboro Road. We've come together and we've decided that it's not the best thing to put a dealership at that location, and they're going to have input sessions that I'm going to help organize to allow the public to come in and speak to what they would want to see there. But they have committed to allowing even our planning department to put in its conditions of them not being able to put a dealership there. So that's not going to be there, so you don't have to worry about it. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Khalid?
Are we doing, that's your council comment?
No, that was an ask for.
Okay. So you ready to do your council comment now?
I thought we were foregoing council comment.
Okay, we're not.
Oh, okay, well.
Was there a motion to forego council comments? No, I didn't hear one.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, let's go. So go ahead, Mr. Baker.
On my end, I'm sorry. Okay, well, outside of that, if there's anyone who has coats, I'm having a coat drive in District 7. I've reached out to Pastor Martin, Cornerstone Church. I've teamed up with the Community Boutique, and I have an access of winter coats that will be distributed throughout the city because of the season. I wasn't prepared for the comments. I didn't know that we were going to have them, but I'm also going to be going to, I think it's Renaissance Middle School as well as Bear Creek Middle School this month. Later in the month, we'll be going to view the movie Harriet for Black History Month. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Khalid.
Happy Black History Month to the blackest city in America. I have several events planned for this month. You can find out about them at khalidcares.com/Black History. One of them is a post that I do every day about a Black History moment or Black History maker. The first of them was for Congresswoman Barbara Lee. She was the first and only congressperson to vote against the war in Afghanistan. In her now historic speech, she urged us to not become the evil that we deplore. Last night, our ethics board decided to go forward with a complaint against me. The complainant was assisted in public comment by a member of council, one of my colleagues. And some of my supporters have urged me to file a retaliatory complaint against this retaliatory complaint and investigate their finances, to which I say no. We must not become the evil we deplore, and we cannot allow our city to be dragged further down into this bottomless abyss of retaliations. At the beginning of the year, we all held hands, stood on a stage, and made a vow to move forward. I am urging all of you, keep us accountable to that vow and make yourselves accountable to that vow. We cannot turn the page as a city unless we all turn that page together. South Fulton forever.
Let's go, yeah.
A few things. I have a community benefits ordinance that'll be coming forward soon. And what it really means is that the community will get an opportunity to talk to developers to talk about, well, you're bringing a development, this is what the community wants, let's negotiate. So I'm hoping that we can hash it out and bring it forward as soon as possible. The other thing is at our last meeting, Georgia State brought the research project that they conducted for District 4 regarding urban agriculture. It's three things: urban agriculture, the environment, and economic development. So I'm going to meet with zoning very soon so that we can move forward on urban agriculture legislation. The next thing is there's another mixed-use development coming to District 4. That's the only thing I want to say about it now. I'm really excited about it because it's going to be extremely diverse. And the two last things moving forward, there is a new initiative called Seniors for Youth, because there are a lot of youth that don't have grandparents. And then the last one is the admissions that are still coming from the landfill. We're still on top of it, and you'll hear more about it very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out. We're flying high in District 3. And I would like to encourage you to subscribe to my newsletter if you're not receiving it. www.city southfultondistrict3.com. I would like to also thank the residents who came out to the Chat and Chew. We had a wonderful time. I also would like to thank the residents who came out to view the red carpet event, the Suppress Fight to Vote movie. We had a very good turnout, a lot of education around the new voting machines and a demonstration. And now I also would like to remind District 3 residents that we are having a town hall on February 27th, and at that town hall, we did invite GDOT to talk about any follow-ups from the last initial meeting we had regarding GDOT projects in the area. We also are going to have code enforcement there to address any code enforcement issues you may have, and we also will have Mr. Antonio Venzuelas there to address any public works concerns that you may have. That is February 27th at Welcome Park, and the time will be 6 o'clock. I'll look to see you there. I also want to congratulate Marquise Grissom Baseball Association. He did recognize 2 athletes from the Baseball Association program. He did a wonderful gala this previous Saturday, and the 2 guys that he honored at the gala was most improved at the Welcome All Baseball Association program. I am trying to pull their names up. Okay, it was Mr. Landon Griffin, most improved, awarded for leadership in academic and sportsmanship, and the other student was Desmond Gross, most improved, awarded for leadership in academic sportsmanship. Congratulations to you both.
Okay, Ms. Gunn.
She used all my time. So I would first like to thank everyone that braved the weather on Saturday to come out to the Health and Business Expo we had at Renaissance Church. It was a great time, a lot of great community action and engagement, so thank you all for coming out. Also, we have a brunch with the businesses at the Camp Creek Village that will be held in conjunction with the City of South Fulton Police Department. We will be working with the business owners to discuss ways to make sure that our residents and people that come and visit our city are safe and able to enjoy the plaza. So that will be on February the 19th at 2 o'clock. If there are any concerns or residents that would like to attend, you're more than welcome. That will be held at the police department. Also, too, I'd like to thank everyone who donated books for our upcoming and exciting event. We have a lot of books. We have made our goal of 300. We're still looking for more, but you will learn more about why we need those books and those donations through Read South Fulton, which is a project that's being launched very soon. Also, too, we have mock elections that will be coming up on the 18th at any of your local libraries. I believe there is a flyer that is circulating around in regards to that. It starts at 10 o'clock on February the 18th, so you can actually have an opportunity to test out the new voting machines. That is very, very important. So I hope if you all have not attended any of our town hall meetings and haven't had the opportunity to participate in the demonstration, I do encourage you to take advantage of the mock elections. And lastly, my comment is to Ms. Rankin. We have never had a conversation. I would love for you to have an opportunity to speak with me. Half of that stuff that you mentioned definitely does not represent me, so I encourage you to get to know me and have a conversation with me before we have this continued dialogue. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Just a couple quick updates. In conjunction with Commissioner Joe Carn and Councilwoman Guns, we'll be hosting our Senior Sweetheart Day Party tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at St. James Live. Also working in partnership with the mayor and encouraging the entire city council to participate with our initiative 60 for 60 with Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Metro Atlanta. Our goal is to match the youth in our city with mentors. We have a backlog of approximately 190 youth who are looking for mentors, and so we want to encourage you to be a part of that process. If you're interested, please see Ruth Prophet in the back. If you could wave your hand, Ruth. We would love to have you and share information about our upcoming training session. In addition, One of the things we're also relaunching again is our Westlake Lunch and Learn Speaker Series. We're looking for professionals across a variety of disciplines to come to speak to Westlake students. We do it in a lunch and learn format, and we'll kick off in the month of March on Thursdays. So again, if you're interested in participating, see Ms. Prophet. Thank you.
Councilmember Reeves has comment. Councilmember Reeves, go ahead.
I just want to say to the constituents that I apologize for training, so I can better represent you. And I know that it's not like being in there in person. And I can hardly hear, so but I am doing the best I can to hear all of what's going on. And thank you for bearing with us during this process for today. That's all I have to say.
Okay, just briefly. Can I get a chance?
Yes.
Want to acknowledge 3 of our students who at the Pennon Awards this weekend, sponsored by Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, won scholarships. Cameron Carter from Westlake High School, Maisa Latine from Banneker High School, and Kennedy Elizabeth Spencer. All 3 of those young ladies won scholarships, were scholarship recipients of that affair. Also, I want to acknowledge Banneker High School girls who are going to the state championship. Did I say Banneker? I'm sorry. I said Banneker. I meant Langston Hughes.
That's right.
Langston Hughes. I'm sorry. Langston Hughes girls are going to the state championship. Also, the mighty Westlake Lions, 2-time state champions, are going back to the state tournament this year, and we're looking for a three-peat from last year. So we're very proud of those young ladies. Also, I'm having what is called a conversation with the mayor. I think it's Thursday. Am I correct, Mr. Donald?
Yes, sir.
That's very different. No podium, no slide presentation. It's just me, you, and him. Mr. Donald. Very informal. So we can really have an opportunity to really sit down and talk about different issues. So it's going to be at Zion Hill Baptist Church at 7 o'clock. Please, I'd like for you to attend. Let's sit down and just talk, without any formality about things that affect us. I really hope that many of you can attend. All right? What now? Oh, it's going to be a live stream also. I didn't want to tell them that they might stay home. It's going to be live stream, okay? Madam Clerk?
Next is the city manager's monthly report.
Good evening, no ma'am. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've got a quick report for you with some updates. You have a presentation that's been provided, and for the edification of the public, it is posted online. So I will go through it very quickly, harping on just a couple of key items. The beginning of the report, just to continue some of the positive highlights that sometimes get lost, can move forward, Mr. Adams. You can move forward. It's just simply some of the accomplishments that the city went through in FY19. I won't go through all of them, but there is a great amount of work that is occurring both administratively and legislatively, and just want to kind of highlight the services that are provided on behalf of our residents, whether it's the passing of the strategic plan, for which will be highlighted by DCA and the City County Managers Association in Augusta in March, to the new 311 platform that we presented, that there are only 2 in the state of Georgia, down to leveraging C-Click Fix, to where we were rated one of the top 20 organizations in the country for our problem resolution. I think those things are important to highlight, because our service delivery for a city that is not, is less than 3 years old is a very big deal, and is acquiring quite a bit of critical acclaim. And so I think as we continue to try to meet the needs of our residents, it's important to just highlight the great things that we've done so far. You can move past this. As we continue that, next slide right here, we've also done quite a bit of great work in FY20 where we're approaching a halfway point. And I think it's just important that the goals that have been set out by council and maybe most importantly, our residents are beginning to take shape. Highlighted by, ensuring that our police officers are safe as they, administer their duties by the Bulletproof Vest Partnership grant that we received in September. Tourism is a very big deal for this part of the region with our proximity of the airport. And so under your leadership, we've developed the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We've also acquired about $17.5 million to carry out projects that likely should have been carried out, years in the past. And so righting those wrongs on behalf of our citizens, as well as introducing a few new items, of which some of them I will highlight now, which I'll start with the customer service program. You can go to the next slide. So as we move forward, you can actually, I'm sorry, if you go back one to the City of South Fulton Charter, I think one of the areas that you have looked at very responsibly, and I don't know if our residents are aware, but the errors or omissions that might be a part of the South Fulton City Charter, you've actually begun the process to look at the charter internally and identify areas for improvement. Now, I did want to give you a quick update that you requested that we use a educational institution. And so we have reached out to all of the educational institutions in the region, but unfortunately they have not been able to meet our need, whether it be timing, capacity, or lack of expertise. And with the exception of Georgia College, who we're awaiting a response from, but we believe we have selected a very high quality vendor that might be better than that organization. And so you'll be receiving additional info, but I did want to give you a highlight that we have followed your directions. We've asked all of those educational institutions and others and received responses from all. And so details and a recommendation will come before you at the next meeting. Next slide. In addition to that, one of the things that I am most happy about and are excited about is some efforts around customer service and just kind of a personal passion for service delivery at every location that I have worked. We've tried to improve customer service and make it a part of everything that we do. And so here in South Fulton, we have taken the first steps to do that. We commissioned a secret shopper program out of the city manager's office, and it has actually just been completed. I received the report today, have not had an opportunity to go fully through it, but I wanted you to know that we have assessed 17 facilities more than 30 times, meaning that throughout the day and throughout this year to find out what level of service that we are providing on behalf of our residents. In addition to that, we've tied all of these activities to our 311 center, and it is the goal of our team to introduce a customer service bill of rights to ensure that our residents receive a codified level of service that they can expect from the city at all times. And so we will be bringing that back before you at the next meeting as well. And these are the activities that we are looking at for 2020 and beyond now that we have closed out FY19. I think you're aware of the Main Street program. I think one of the areas that we want to make sure, you can go to the next slide, that we do a much better job of is providing information on economic development projects directly to the council in the most transparent way possible. And so this is an excerpt of the economic development report that is included in the city manager's report and has been for the last 3 months. It tells you what the project code name is, the description of the project, and its status. I think that's very important because many things don't rise even to the level of a lead. It's simply a rumor. And so those things are not something that we report on or give much time on. But when it becomes a lead, we will at least let you know that. But no project is really taken seriously until it reaches prospect status. And so you'll get an update on this every month in the city manager's report. Next, I think one area that we are also excited about is expanding transportation. We've heard quite a bit about potholes and issues that have been long withstanding. I think I met with fire the other day and I told them at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you're riding down, certain streets, I've been around since I was 17 and first able to drive, and I can close my eyes and turn left because the same pothole has been there since that time. And so one of the things that we'll be bringing back to you at the mid-year budget is an opportunity to increase our maintenance budget to actually solve those problems versus repairing them. I think we were talking with Councilmember Baker and Councilmember Reeves offline. What we want to do is similar to what the young lady mentioned, is come back with a pothole palooza, where we identify all of the potholes that exist in the city and fix them one time correctly on behalf of our residents. And so we plan to introduce this pothole palooza to the city after the mid-year budget. Next slide. So for public safety, I won't dive into that either, but I think our focus is leveraging the funds that you have allotted us to make sure we find a semi-permanent home in the public safety complex for all of our public safety areas, but also court operations, which we're assessing now, moving them away from East Point and putting them down on Old National at this new complex that we're really excited about. I think I also wanted to highlight just the level of leadership that we have instilled in public safety is without a doubt the best in the region. And I think based on everybody's acclaim, in some instances, the state with the recent award of our fire chief, who is the fire chief of the year in the state. When it comes to parks and recreation, I think the efforts that you've made for the URA are really our focus moving forward, but I did want to highlight that on the next slide, we do foresee a separate arts and culture department as we mature, which will either be the Department of Arts and Cultural Affairs or some other name, but the purpose is to house this new array of facilities and programs that you have actually just approved today. So those things are extremely important, and we want to make sure that we have the appropriate allocation for it. Finally, as we close out, I think we've had quite a bit of success under the leadership of the city treasurer, Mr. Malazzi, where we've repaid the TAN, which I think was a concern at one point. We did without fanfare. We've acquired the URA, acquired all of the T-SPLOSH funding that is due to us, as well as remaining under budget 20% year after year and increasing our actual revenues by 70% without providing tax hikes to our residents. And so while all of those things are excellent, you can go to the next slide, we do want to focus on enhancing our fiscal operations so that we move forward appropriately. And so the plan to do so in collaboration with the city treasurer's office is to make sure we have strong fiscal policies. And so we've started that process with programs and performance, but we do not have the full capacity to complete the level of standard operating procedures that are necessary to coordinate citywide. And so we plan to bring back before you a recommendation to have an independent third party help us develop those. Also, we will need you to give some guidance on the dual reporting roles related to finance and the overall structure of the city. I think now that these items have been placed under my purview, I ordered an independent review so that we can find out what works, what doesn't, and where we need to improve. We would likely be bringing that back to you in March for a review and for us to make the appropriate adjustments there. And I think now that we're moving forward with the FY19 audit, we will be using that as our guide on how to incorporate those operations overall. And so one thing that the city treasurer and I have begun to partner on is ensuring that we move up the FY21 budget schedule. which I believe is very important so that we get a jump on how we move forward. We also will be asking you to review the procurement ordinance because we have found that we need to be able to operate more nimbly, and some of the areas in that ordinance are not as clear as we might need them to be. I think finally in this area, one thing, I know I've written you a memo about it quite a few months ago, but I do believe that our cash flow problem is actually based on our fiscal year being pretty much out of whack with everyone else in the region and those we do business with. And so I think that we need to look forward over the next few years on whether we should adjust our fiscal year to align better in the region. Is a consideration that will be brought before the council with pros and cons, but I think a big portion of how we operate in our youth is the timing at which we collect. And so I think and I'm sorry, you can go back to this last slide. I think we've heard loud and clear from the council. If you look to the right, you want to see more clear insights into our fiscal operations to understand where our funds are, how does cash play a role in our day-to-day, how do we project our growth and things of that nature. And so this is an example of the report that Sandy Springs provides, which is a little bit more succinct than ours. Although ours is quality, I believe that this appears to be something similar to what you're asking for. And so to help guide our work, if you go to the next slide, I've just included a few reports that other municipalities use that the city treasurer and I will be looking at to give you that fuller picture so that you can make stronger decisions with a lot more information. And so we will be looking at that over the next 60 days on how to bring something that fits your needs together. And so if you go to the next slide, which I believe is the final one, this is a draft, and I just didn't put draft over it because you wouldn't be able to read it, but this is just a draft of the accelerated budget calendar that we will be proposing. It may have some tweaks to it, but it would actually have an internal kickoff on March 1, which is only a few weeks away, to get the staff started on it, and then in April we would move up the council retreat so that we can get guidance from you on the front end versus the end of the actual budget process. And so we have also re-added the citizen engagement and employee engagement to make sure we hear from everyone before we start the budget process. That concludes my report and the administrative priorities for the balance of FY and calendar year 2020.
Okay, before I call on Ms. Gilliard and Ms. Willis, one thing I do want to say to you is that I find that the budgeting, the way we do it, the fiscal year that we do it, gives us a better look at what funds we have. Coming from Fulton County, and where we went from January to December,
calendar year.
We basically had to guesstimate the last 6 months of our period, because actually Mr. Ferdinand did not stop collecting until June of the following year. So it made it very, very difficult. That's why I like where we were today. So for whatever it means, I think we should, that would be my 2 cents to it.
And no disagreement from you, Mayor. I think what my proposal would be to present just the pros and cons to the council. Sure. You know, all of you guys make those final decisions, but I think there are some challenges in the current layout. And, you know, I think good governance, you always just look at what you do and evaluate. And so we'll present something to you. And of course, if it doesn't add up or doesn't make sense, we will always defer to the will of the council.
Okay, Ms. Gilliard, then Ms. Willis. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Under the permits and business section, commercial and industrial.
Where are you exactly?
Oh, I'm sorry, it looks like page 24. I don't know, or 34, I can't tell because it's blurred.
Okay, if you talk me through it, I'll catch up.
Okay. It's the one right under business licenses.
Okay.
Where you give the list of them. But commercial and industrial are together and they should be separate. because they're really two separate things. Commercial businesses, actually people enter commercial businesses, but they don't enter industrial businesses, so they should be separate. It's right up under business licenses. It's after DSF.
You're looking at the actual city manager report. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at that. I was giving a presentation. Okay.
Yeah,
and you were saying what now?
So I'm saying that commercial slash industrial, like if we have 10 of them, it should be separated. What's commercial and what's industrial?
I'm sure we can make that change.
It's minor, but I think it's important.
No problem at all. Okay. Yeah, we'll note that and make some adjustments.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Willis?
Yes, so I would like to ditto what the mayor said, and I would like to ask you to go back and look at the transition notes, because we debated that heavily when we got elected, and we made a change to October 1 for that very purpose that he outlined. We did have a lot of debate over that, and we thought, and we did weigh the pros and cons, and we thought it was more beneficial for us to change it to October 1st. The second thing is, when you do the budgets, are you anticipating on bringing back the budget workshops? Because that was very helpful.
I mentioned that.
I didn't hear you mention it. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's a part of the calendar. It's
okay, because you were going through it pretty fast.
Yeah,
I didn't see that. All right, because that was very helpful, and that didn't happen last year, and residents, and the residents missed it. The other thing is, on the economic development schedule that can you go back to that? Page 33.
You said a schedule?
And I'm going to go ahead and talk while you go back. Page 33, the economic development, you said the report has been in here for 3 months. And I am asking you to, a recommendation that whenever you have grand openings in the city, especially for the council person that represents that area, I would like to ask that there is closer collaboration. And the reason I'm asking because I found out that, and this is something that we've been talking about since 2018, and my residents has been highly anticipating it, and that's the Main Street program in Red Oak. And I found out today from the flyer being posted on Facebook, and no one had ever contacted me to coordinate my availability, and it's in my district, and it's a grand opening, and I would love to make sure, and I am going to advertise it, but what if I wasn't available? I mean, I did have something on my schedule, and I had to rearrange it, but I would love, that's something big, and the residents have been highly anticipating it. So my ask to you is that when you all are coordinating events like that and something that huge for the community, that you really try to work with the council person who represents that area, because we really want to make sure that we do our due diligence letting our community know about the events. And we have access to a database that you all don't have access to because we work closer to our people.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, and we're excited that you'll be able to attend that event as well.
And I'm excited that it's happening, and we just want to maximize attendance from the community. The last question I want to ask you is, several of us have communicated with Mr. Leffich that we had conflict with a SOCA event, and then we received the email from Ms. Freeman, and she explained why you all scheduled it that way, but is there any possibility, so that we can maximize attendance? Now, if you all basing it on the mayor's schedule, I understand, but I'm pretty sure you want participation from the entire council.
So I think I sent you guys a note. It was late last night, so you may not have seen it. And so just as a reminder, I think we have brought that forward quite a few times. One, through the detailed memo. I think the second time is when we transitioned Southwest Arts Center. We mentioned that specific date, and on a couple of other occasions. While those dates were put out, if they don't work for the council and the mayor is the primary speaker, as I mentioned in my memorandum, the will of the council always, kind of proceeds, but we have started to encumber cost related to the administration of that program And in many times, I think we've, asked questions about delivering information in advance and things of this nature. This is probably one of those that I don't think falls under that. I think we've provided that date over the last quarter, quite a bit. And so again, even though we've encumbered money and even though we've provided notice, if it doesn't work for everybody and if you want to make an adjustment, you have to give us that direction.
So the time was not verified. You all were still going back and forth about the time because you were trying to work out this true color. So that was not. And so some of us, anticipated, like last time it was done in the evening and it was a reception done prior to it. So some of us did make, have plans earlier that day in the Saturday morning. And so that was not provided to council.
And so I think my response is kind of the same. With the will of the council, we make the adjustments, and so we would defer to you on that.
So how soon do you need to know?
Well, we have encumbered.
Can the clerk poll us?
So I think first it has to be the will of the council, because I know that is you, but respectfully, we have to have a majority give us direction. And so we've started the activities of SOCA with the mayor who leads that effort. If there is going to be a change, it will have to be by the will of the council. And I think the other adjustment is we have to ensure that the facility will still be available, if those who will be participating can still participate. So it's not a simple move to make the adjustment. So I think first we need the guidance of the will of the majority, and then we will adjust accordingly as you guide us.
Well, the email didn't specifically say who had a conflict. It said several of us had conflicts. And the facility that we are having the event, don't we own that facility now?
We do, but there are some operational. So it's not just, this is not a facility for which we just use willy-nilly. Southwest Arts Center is something that is available for the public use. And so the public use is theater, classes, etc. So it is an active and vibrant facility.
So I guess the question is, does anybody else have a conflict? Because the email says several of us had conflict. I have a conflict. Councilmember Gums says she have a conflict. I mean, I don't have to be there. Like you said, but I'm pretty sure you want the whole council to be there.
Absolutely. We always want the greatest participation possible.
Well, let's take that up someplace.
Mayor, you had a council member question.
It was fine. I'm speaking at a conference on that day, but either way, I do think just in general, we should at least have the 2 to 3 weeks lead time on any event, just for our own calendar. You juggling, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. I'm just saying in terms of coordination, and I think that's a time issue, but I don't think it should be held up. You're not going to always have everybody in attendance. So if it's so many people, you might explore Westlake or some other options. I don't know. As you mentioned, it's kind of the mayor's initiative. So.
Excuse me, Mr. Khalid, I kind of overlooked you. Go ahead.
I want to second my colleague's comments about, not about the SOCA, I don't have an issue with that, but about coordinating openings in our districts, because there have been several openings in my districts that I found out about through social media. About the budget, a couple people talked about a couple of things. I believe that we are making plans to now that Fulton County has decided they're not going to be applying for CDBG funds, that we're going to be applying for them. I know the federal government's year starts October 1 when ours starts, so maybe those CDBG funds, when we get them, might be able to make up some of that lapse. I don't know, but so that's one thing. And then my question is, where are we with that? Yeah. And how soon will we be able to apply?
So I think I recently, and it didn't have it just gave you a brief status update, the memorandum that I forwarded you and the correspondence with myself and Mr. Anderson. So we requested insights and the ability to apply. That same day that I forwarded you that correspondence, they gave us the deadline, the date, and how cities can apply. It was my first time seeing it, and I don't know if they sent it to anyone else, but we're in the process of applying, and I think we have until March 18th. And so we'll have our application submitted prior to March 18th, and that will be for current fiscal year funds. We are also on track to become an entitlement city separate and apart from them when that application opens in June. And so the first thing is to get funds this year where we're applying to Fulton County, and then simultaneously we are applying with HUD to be a entitlement city. Both are in progress right now.
And so for the benefit of those listening and watching,
yes, sir.
We can expect to see some CDBG money maybe when we do our mid-year budget review, and then for 2021 when we start doing our budget planning?
More likely when we do our budget planning. So
okay.
The application process is in March. It will likely be a 60-day turnaround before any awards are given. As you saw from my letter, I petitioned them to move that process up, but we don't control their process.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then moving to the Economic Development Strategic Plan, I didn't get a chance to meet with Mr. Venable about this, but we've been talking about it, so we should talk. Mm-hmm. But we did pass this moratorium against like uses.
Yes, sir.
And the braiding salon that he advertised, that was advertised and that he referred to, mm-hmm. actually cannot get a building permit. Mm-hmm. And I think there's another business that they're trying to bring a tire shop to that area.
Yeah,
that also can't get a building permit. So my request is, whenever we make and I've said it to you privately, but I'm just saying
yes,
it for the benefit
Absolutely.
of those who haven't talked with me personally. Mm-hmm. Whenever we make an adjustment to how we operate with businesses, whether it's a resolution asking for development authorities to seek mm-hmm. The consent of our development authority, mm-hmm. or whether we make a change to the zoning, because we're going to be making more changes to the zoning in March, I think that we should use our database and publicize those changes to all of the businesses, because very often they do not find out. The person who owns that braiding salon did not find out that this moratorium had passed until after they had signed the lease and then gone to City Hall to get a building permit. So they're already in the process, and that's something that we're going to have to deal with. So I would like to see us communicate these changes that we make in relation to businesses with the actual businesses who will be affected. And then you talked about the new complex, which we're all really excited about. Do we have, again, for the benefit of the audience, do we have a move-in date? And will that move-in, I know that the move-in date might be different for, it might be different for the police headquarters and the departments versus the courts versus the council chambers, because we talked about being able, so what are those prospective moving dates?
Yeah, and so that ball is kind of moving a little bit, but we are likely going to do it in phases, with the first priority being the council chambers, I believe, followed by police, or not just council chambers, but the actual court house. We'll follow up with some detailed information on that, but I think we've just completed the architecture procurement, which will lead that process. I think one of the areas that I reported on in the last council meeting.
I'm sorry, my clock is still running, but the city manager's talking.
Oh.
I was at 2 minutes. Go ahead.
But at the last council meeting, I think we highlighted that the costs were a little bit absorbent initially. We plan to bring those down quite a bit, and the URA is funding that process, and so we're still a little bit ways off of giving you that date. If you give me until the next council meeting, we should have something a lot more firm. I don't want to
not to push you, but do we even have a season, maybe like summer or fall or winter of 2020?
I think we're looking more like late summer, early fall currently.
For the courthouse?
For the move-ins, you're talking about the complete.
For all three, yeah. No, I just when I was particularly talking about the courthouse and council chambers, because I understand that might come first. So you're saying that might be fall of 2020.
Summer of 2020.
Okay.
Summer or fall of 2020. Yes, sir.
And then that brings me to my last thing. I don't know. We have kind of a low attendance tonight. I don't know if we're just settling into what is common to other cities, or if everybody is home watching Bernie win the New Hampshire primaries. But I do know that it is a long walk through the rain for people to get in this building that aren't council members, because we're the only people that have spaces up front. And there's like 1 or 2 handicap spaces. So I would really implore us, for as long as we're here, until we get to that old National building where they have plenty of parking right in front of the building, if we could work with our Parks Department and maybe have a shuttle, particularly when there's inclement weather. And also, I know that Chief Meadows has already provided officers to watch the lot, but if that's something that we can do.
I thought I was under the impression that we've already arranged shuttle transportation from the adjoining lot to here. If not, I mean, I think we're working with the clerk on that, but I'll follow up to be sure. We may have missed it tonight, but in the last few, we've coordinated with Parks and have had that occur.
So if we are doing that, perhaps we just need to have our communications department publicize it, and I'll publicize it in my newsletter as well, because I think that may be some reason that people are not coming.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Let me clarify something, because we need to move on. The issue of council chambers. What is in the?
Oh, got it.
Are you with me?
Okay.
What is in the outline for that facility is a courtroom that could be used
for council,
if necessary, for council chambers also. So I want to make that, council meetings, I'm sorry. Council meetings also, I want to make that very clear. We're not building a council chamber. We're building one
correct, room, a place for
one room that could be used for multi-purposes if needed. Okay, so I want to make that clear. Okay. All right.
And Mayor, I got a little clarification. So the project is actually supposed to be brought to you, and you guys know this, the completion is supposed to be January of 21. The plan is to move that date up where everyone is in there prior to that. But again, I told you I didn't want to commit to that because the initial renderings and things that have been brought back has the price a little bit higher than budgeted. And so again, if you give me into the next council meeting,
and what people have to understand is that this whole negotiation, when it gets to architectural design, cost, and things of that nature, there are 3 or 4 reiterations of what it might look like.
Absolutely, that's correct.
Absolutely. The design I saw, it looked like a bunch of walls. But I found they were not walls. They were actually cubicles, which made me feel a whole lot better. So it's just a matter of getting all that stuff down and making those negotiations. It's been long and tedious.
Yes, sir, it has.
But we'll get there. All right, Madam Clerk.
Council, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent items. Number 4, proclamation to Ben Hill Toastmasters. Number 5, the approval of appointments to add Parks and Rec Rodney Jones. Number 6, approval of proposed fee schedule at the Merck Miles Waste Transfer Center. Number 8, council approval resolution for waiver of annexation fees. Number 9, council approval resolution filling a vacancy on the South Fulton Development Authority. And item number 10, approval to award the annual physical exams contract for firefighters to Site Med North America, LLC.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as articulated by the city clerk.
Properly moved to second. In discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is previous agendas. Council second reading and adoption of ordinance enhancing administrative efficiencies, amending Title I Administration of the City of South Fulton Code of Ordinances.
I'll entertain a motion.
We need to just do a revision based on feedback we've gotten. The city attorney, do you have the revised admin?
Yes, I've circulated the revised copy to all council members.
Okay.
And Councilwoman Rao, if I could just clarify, one of the changes I did not incorporate, and that was the one where it said that if something falls on a holiday, that we'll delay it to XY day. Do you remember that change?
Yeah, so one of the things I was concerned about was that when we're counting, we should be counting business days, and holidays should be excluded because people aren't looking. I mean, if the city is closed, that should not be counted as a day. So if it's not in there, then, I mean, I'll revisit it at another point, but that's really an issue.
Well, if I could clarify why I removed it.
Okay.
So there's a state statute, because the clerk's notice requirements are going to be pursuant to the state statute, because for the most part, she's going to be doing public meeting notifications, et cetera. There is a state statute that designates the counting of business days and holidays, et cetera. So we don't want to adopt anything that's not compliant with the state statute. So the best practice is just to follow the statute that the state requires.
So they count holidays?
They do not count holidays. So it's a provision that says that if it falls on, like for example, if you have to notice something within 48 hours, then it wouldn't include a holiday that's been declared by the state of Georgia.
Right, but we've done that, so that's my concern, that we should, but, well, let me ask you this. Would it be the difference between a state holiday and a city holiday?
Well, the city holidays, we have local control. So we're the ones who designate like when those meetings and notices would be. So that we wouldn't have that problem for. It would just be for the clerk's purposes for maybe having something fall on a state or federal holiday.
Okay, so long as we're clear, we don't count holidays, I'm good.
And so far, I haven't seen where she's done that, so I don't think to date that's been a problem.
We did
yes,
have an
we did.
issue in December about counting a holiday, but I'm gonna leave that as long as we all clear that we not counting holidays, I'm good.
Okay.
Hey, Ms. Rose?
Yeah, you sure we don't need to put this in writing? Because I have an email where you opined back in December. Mrs. White was on leave, so she probably don't remember it, but Mr. Adams can testify to it, that it was Christmas Eve and there was a special call meeting, and Christmas Eve was counted as a day that accounted for the 40 hours, and you opined via email that it was legal to do that. And so what Councilmember Rowell is, and it was very insensitive to people who were, I was on vacation, there was a lot of people on vacation, and it was emergency meeting called, and you opined that it was legal to do that and count one of the holidays as one of the days that could be accounted for in a 48-hour notice. And so what Councilmember Rowell is trying to do is prevent that from ever happening. Because not only is that not fair to us, it's not fair to staff, and it's not fair to residents. And when that happened, I called other cities, and she is correct. They do not count holidays as a official business day for notice. So I do think if we can make that amendment to prohibit us from counting holidays as official notice days for special call meetings, I would love to make that amendment.
So just to clarify, those are two separate issues. One is the counting of days for public notice requirements. I think what you're referring to is your charter provision that says that you cannot have a special meeting unless all council members are given 48-hour notice. Now that is a local requirement. So you guys do have liberty locally amongst each other to establish whether you're going to adhere to that when there's holidays, and that's that 48-hour notice requirement that's in your charter. There's nothing in your charter that says that if it's a holiday, that locally you can't make that decision, so it would be up to the council collectively to say, look, we know this is a holiday, so we're not going to schedule a meeting on that date.
And so that's what she wants to put in the administrative ordinance. That's what she's saying. She wants to put in the administrative ordinance that we do not recognize holidays as a notice date.
So that
regardless, that's what she's saying she wants to do. So can we make that amendment?
Yeah, we can definitely make, so the amendment that I was provided was not that amendment, but I do get what you're saying. You're saying that you want to put clarity locally that as a council, we will agree that we will not schedule a meeting if it's a city-recognized holiday, and we can definitely do that.
Not only city, but if it's a city or national or,
We just won't count those days.
We won't count holidays as days, period.
So I can craft the language that we're
Can we
able to
put it in
incorporate.
now? Can we just go ahead and make it as a friendly amendment so we can vote on it, and you can just come back with the revised, because the mayor has, 5 days to sign?
So you mean vote on it today and then
Yeah.
you wouldn't, well, it wouldn't come back if you voted on it today.
Right.
So if you're
wanna
comfortable
hold
with
it?
me making the
Yeah,
change,
I
you're not
don't
seeing
know.
it.
Hold it.
Just hold it, and then you get whatever language. I'm fine with holding. We done waited all this time.
February 20, can you bring it back February 28th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make sure it's back the next meeting. That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Is there, let me go to Mr. Khalid and Mr. Baker, and we'll move on.
So I still have several issues with this ordinance. The main issue is that it's expansive. It covers several departments and several other ordinances. For example, there is a section 1-3004 and also section 1010 that cover financial policies. We have a purchasing ordinance. We have yet to receive a comprehensive purchasing policy. I know that there is a draft of one circulating around, but we haven't reviewed that as a council and approved it. I think that the reimbursement and travel and signature issues should all be in one purchasing policy so that we as members, staff, and our public can go to one document and find all of those policies. So that's the first issue. I also have an issue with district budgets during election years. So we're going to amend. There's a policy for district budgets during election years. We just reelected half of our council that wasn't subject to that policy. It would affect my election. It would affect my electoral college, which is the first citywide event that we ever did. It happens every year in October. And so I have a concern about that as well. And then in general, I just think as a practice that we should amend ordinances separately and not write these comprehensive amendments that revise multiple ordinances in our code.
Can I please address that, just in general?
No, we're going to hold it anyway, but Mr. Baker is the last speaker.
Okay.
Mr. Baker.
No, I do have concerns, but I can speak offline. No need to kick a dead horse.
Okay.
Just really quickly, we worked with the legal department, the finance department, and actually the reimbursement and travel is aligned with the training that was just given to all council members. So which is why she revised it to be resent out. But really, this is only given description. So over the course of the last 2 years, we've adopted these various ordinances to describe the departments, but we didn't have an intro to our code, and this is what this attempts to do. So it doesn't replace, if you notice, they're really just descriptions of what those departments do. It does in no way negate any ordinance that we've adopted about how these departments, any additional duties. They're just descriptions. Again, so we have an intro and we just don't jump into our code. So if you look on Muni Code, you will basically see we kind of just jump into a section and there's no lead. That's what this intends to do. And so if you have any other questions between then and now, we'll address it. I know, I think we got the ones that were raised by Mr. Reeves as well as Councilwoman Gilliard. They reached out. So if there are any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. But that's all this relates to, giving an intro to our code.
Okay, let me say once again, when the chair calls the last speaker, that's the last speaker. We must move on. Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Next item on the agenda is adoption of increasing the Blighted Property Abatement Fund, amending Title I, Administration, Chapter 12, Code Enforcement.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve. I With the amendment that my name should be on this ordinance. Thank you.
We're going to approve it with the amendment that his name is on it.
He asked us, he removed his name.
And then after I had a conversation with Mr. Malazzi, I told our city attorney that I would like my name added back. So if we could just do that, that would be great.
So we made a motion to put his name on it. All right, properly moved to second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes.
For the record, we didn't hear who seconded. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Dixon.
Next item is the adoption of amending Title II, Taxation, Chapter 5, Business and Occupation Taxes of the City Code of Ordinances, amending occupation certificate revocation requirements.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the amending the business license ordinance.
Second.
Properly moved to second. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor? Am I recording Mr. Reed's vote or not?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
The next item on the agenda is item number 7, council approval of resolution designating the legal organ for the city of South Fulton.
Go ahead.
I would like to amend this resolution to add the Atlanta Voice.
The Atlanta Voice?
The Atlanta Voice, and with the South Fulton neighbor, neither one of them is. Basically, my conversations and clarification with the city clerk, our notices are free until we get into the process where we're publishing the budget. And one of the things, South Fulton neighbor doesn't cover the whole city. It covers part of the city, and Atlanta Voice doesn't cover the whole city. Right now, we don't have a paper that covers both, so that was a suggestion.
Mr. Willis, go ahead.
I would like the clerk's feedback on the letter voice. Is there a financial impact? Because you all deal with legal notices. And before we make a decision to add another legal organ that may have a financial impact, I would like to hear some feedback from you guys.
Well, actually, Mayor and Council, we have not advertised in the Atlanta Voice, but I would believe that they are probably cheaper than the Daily Report and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
I can believe that.
Crazy. Okay.
So the financial impact wouldn't be that great. It will kind of wash itself out.
Will it just give us more coverage by adding them on? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion.
So I make a motion to add the Atlanta Voice as the second legal organ on this particular resolution.
Second.
Properly moved to second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes. Madam Clerk.
Next item is item number 15, request from council for clarification on the date to table modification Z19-005, seeking to change from AG1 to C1 on Jonesboro Road.
We didn't make a clear date on that?
So I asked for this to be placed back on the agenda because it's important that when you defer an item, it also has a date associated with it. No, sir, it was not. And when it's a public hearing, it is required to have such date to notify the public as to when it be heard again.
When's the next available date for public hearing?
So I believe it was asked to have it in March to allow for the public to have an opportunity to hear the plan moving forward.
Okay. Go right ahead.
Well, during that meeting, I spoke directly with the clerk. I know that I don't know if it was communicated after that. I thought it would because he came up and asked when it will be. He asked exactly when did we want to have it deferred, and we agreed March 21st. I didn't know that you didn't receive that information or
So it's
how
not me.
it went forward.
It has to be the board that makes that decision collectively.
Okay, well, I know that there was a motion made during the last meeting to hold it. Even if we didn't say the date, I would like to make the motion now to hold it until the second meeting in March. We've already conferred with said developer.
March 31st.
Yes, the second meeting, yes, correct, that works. And they're aware of that already too, just so you know.
Okay, motion by Mr. Baker, second by Mr. Khalid. Any discussion?
Yes, there will not be a dealership at that location. In between this time, we will confer with the public on what they would like to see at said location. That's per the developer.
Oh, I thought you were making a zoning decision.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
All
Don't
right,
do that.
okay, I got you. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor? That passes.
Next item is council discussion concerning the South Fulton Development Authority.
Let me start that off. You know, several of you have come to me talking about the Development Authority and what we need to do. I think the city needs a Development Authority. I think that the relationship between Development Authority and the city needs to be a whole lot better. And I think it needs some administrative help. And I think that's the job of the city, to make sure that we allow to support them and give them administrative help. There's been a lot of issues concerned about whether everybody should have a representative on the Development Authority. So I put it on the agenda so we can talk this through and move forward.
I move, Mr. Mayor, do you mind if I make a motion?
You can.
I move that we expand the Development Authority to 9, and that we appoint Mercedes Miller and Alicia Ivory. I also would like to move that we make Mr. Pike the Executive Director of the Development Authority, South Fulton Development Authority.
Are we in discussion?
Second.
So can I clarify that? So there's a lot going on in one, but you have to.
Got a second, yeah. About to lose it because of no second.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second discussion.
Probably moved and second discussion now, Mr. Khalid.
So the first thing is that the Development Authority is an independent body. I believe that as an independent body, they should be able to select their own executive director and their own staff. For us as a council to start appointing the staff of an independent authority, I'm not even sure if that's legal. Could you opine on that, Madam Attorney?
So as far as the council has the ability to appoint members of the Development Authority, but then they do have their separate autonomy. So as far as the employees and who is going to perform the duties that they require, that would be under the autonomy of the Development Authority. You can, however, do an IGA with the Development Authority that establishes that type relationship. I do have a attorney who I have asked to provide assistance. I don't know if you're familiar, but her name is Susan Moore. She was general counsel for GMA for over a decade. I've asked her to provide assistance with the council. I have an attorney who is representing the Development Authority on their end, and their attorney, as well as Susan Moore on your behalf, would be available to negotiate an IGA that establishes parameters of that relationship. But you couldn't just say that this is going to be your employee, if you understand what I'm saying.
I hear what you're saying, but everybody I've called, big or small, the economic development, for instance, linked to their Development Authority. I'm not talking about attorneys now. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about economic development directors. Even as large as Fulton County was, that's what happened. So I don't want to get it mixed up. We're not talking about attorneys. We're talking about a person who, the Development Authority's job is to make sure that we get bonds issued. All right? Someone has to bring people to you to get those bonds issued. That's usually the economic development person. And everywhere I've gone, that's the way it is. So we're not talking about the rest of that. Now, let me get Mr. Reeves on the phone.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I actually asked the attorney a question, so I still had the floor. So again, I think we need to understand the autonomy of the Development Authority. I understand people have been taking all of these classes. One of the things is that development authorities are autonomous. Secondly, when we create an authority, when we create an authority, when we create a naming committee, when we create any of these committees, and then we empower our residents to make decisions, we need to believe in those residents. So it's not that the authority had problems administratively. They had problems because the council that created them didn't believe in them. And we've had that issue with other bodies and committees created when they bring back recommendations that we don't like. We then fault the people that we either hired or outsourced or whatever to make these decisions. When they bring back decisions that we don't like, consultants, we say, oh, I disagree with it, I'm gonna throw it out. So we just need to be careful that when we empower citizens to make decisions, that we actually empower them and that we support the people that we empower. Secondly, I find it troubling that we would be adding members to a board that everyone questioned was capable. So I mean, I think that it's just another sign. We have never given this board the support or encouragement from the time that it began. And I find that particularly troubling. And now I yield.
Okay, Mr. Reed, you yield or you yield?
Councilmember Reed.
Okay. I got
Councilmember
Mr.
Reed.
Reed and Mr. Rao and Ms. Gilliard. Did I miss you somewhere?
Go ahead.
I'm up to speak. Okay, well, when it comes to the Development Authority and the expansion of this, they're doing a great job, and I think that it should be expanded out to 9 members. And whether we have to come up with an IGA or appoint the Economic Development Director to serve as staff for the best interests of the city, then I think that should be done. Furthermore, is that we just conveyed 60 acres to the Development Authority for development that will happen. And I think that should be in the best interest of the city. And that's just my stance and my point on this situation. So I think that we should move forward with this. And so that one of the things is, as Mayor pointed out, that the relationship between the Economic Development Director and the Development Authority should be cohesive and working together for the best interest of the citizens of the city. And that's my stance.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, then I got Ms. Rao.
I want to make an amendment to, I want to withdraw my motion. Okay. I would like to just expand the Development Authority to the 9 and add Mercedes Miller and Alicia Ivory, and then we'll just come back and revisit the IGA agreement with the council and the Development Authority once the other members get on and have an opportunity to get acclimated.
Second.
Probably moved in second. Discussion continue. All right, Ms. Rao.
One of the things too, I also went to training, and one of the things I was going to say, we need that intergovernmental agreement. That was one of the base things, and I think that's why we have confusion, because it clearly outlines everybody's role. One of the things I also learned as a part of that process is in terms of our budget, usually they only give you seed money at the beginning because your development fees or whatever your projects would fund the Development Authority going forward. And I think a lot of our questions have to do with it not being clear, whereas if we go through the process of having an interlocal agreement in place and working through those issues, we resolve those questions. And again, whatever they choose for staff, then that's on them, but we are in a situation where I still think we need clarity because we've put that initial seed money into that entity. And just out of due respect, we got to make sure we're accountable and also sharing that with the public. And I'm sure our chair would work with, the attorney, and we can bring something we can all live with. So I think we can get there, and it doesn't have anything to do with trust in it. I just think making sure our processes are tight will resolve a lot of these questions and issues.
Okay, you still got it?
I was wondering how long it was going to take for it to come back up. I knew it was coming. And it does have an awful lot to do with trust. And it also has a lot to do with how the Development Authority has not really been able to operate. There's always been some kind of problem, either perceived or not really having whatever resources it needed to get from point A to point B. And so I have a problem with that. I have a problem with the executive director sitting at this table, whether you like it or not, and someone being appointed as the executive director. What does that mean for the person that's already really sitting in that seat? What are they supposed to do? Run away? Step down? What? So I think that we're not where we need to be, and that this deserves further discussion without rushing to change something to something it might not need to be. And I have a real problem with it. I really do. Just because of the way it's being handled. And it's been handled in a lot of different ways, as the public already knows. So that's all I really have to say about it. I'm tired.
Mr. Baker? Mr. Baker?
Okay, couple things. Councilwoman Gilliard just spoke to how she was just waiting to see how long it would take. And there was no grace period at all. We just got through a removal hearing process that was never even a disposition rendered because of the action that is attempted right now. I know that last December and all of the months prior that lead all the way back to June were centered around the person who they want to put an IGA in place to run and be admin for the Development Authority. And all of those things started with that same individual. Staff or not, it started with that same individual, and now there's an action to try to place that person right back in this position. All members of the Development Authority have been trained. We had one vacancy, and I know that you guys probably didn't pay attention to it, but it was on the consent agenda, which the mayor prepares. The mayor placed a vacancy fulfillment on the consent agenda when this is the only board that all of us, we don't have an appointment. We've agreed to not have an appointment because we expect these individuals to have a certain amount of expertise. There was a process outlined last year, March, or even prior to that. When I wrote this ordinance 2 years ago in November, it took us until March to even get the qualifications for these individuals. We just heard 2 names. We don't have resumes. They just get placed. We just heard we had a vacancy placed on the consent agenda of a name of who knows what he does, no information, he or she, no resume. But everybody that's on the Development Authority had to issue a resume and was voted on by all of us after reviewing these resumes. We've just heard 2 names. I've never heard of them. The majority of us up here probably have never heard of them. I don't know if there's actually, has a resume been presented for these 2 individuals, Mr. Clerk? For these two individuals, has a resume been presented?
We haven't seen the resume.
Okay. Madam Attorney, have you received a resume for these two individuals?
Not that I'm aware.
All right, it's fine. We haven't. The point is, it doesn't matter. It's just the people who want to run the development authority. That's what this is. Ultimately, we used to have, and we're just recovering from the negativity of what was called a block of four, a gang of four. So I want y'all to keep that same energy in the streets of a new gang of four, or the possibility of a gang of four, which we toiled through the negativity of it, trying to be on the side of right. Now this, what I outlined prior to now, is not right. We've never seen a resume. Even the person on the consent agenda, I'd never seen a resume, and nobody else up here. She said, I'll send it to you, and I didn't give any pushback. I didn't even remove it. I just trust my colleague's judgment that she wouldn't put somebody that's not qualified on this board. But now, the mayor spoke favorably for it about how we need to help. Seconds later, Councilwoman Willis, I want to make a motion. When are our citizens going to see what's happening in their city and do something about it? We have retaliatory actions from my colleagues. Councilman Khalid going to a hearing just for standing up about what's right. $10 million possibly diverted from the city. And when we stand up for it and when we point it out, we have a situation where now they're thinking that we're spending money wrong. Let's look into all of these council members. Not everybody, because if we check other spendings, it's going to be some real smoke. But just the people who were pushing to find out if there were improprieties. At some point, the people outside of this room are going to have to stand up and do something. It goes beyond my power with one vote. Our attorney has just opined that that's not something that the city can even do by placing that. This also has been the fourth time that there has been an attempt to add additional members to this authority. There's 7 of us, and we can't get a consensus. Y'all know that because y'all here with us late at night. There's 7 of us, and we can rarely come to a consensus on anything. So how do we come to a consensus with 9 people who enter a development authority after almost a year, after members have been trained, after members have scheduled retreats and done all of this work, and now we have a $400 million project coming to Old National when nobody has ever attempted to put something like that. Our mayor didn't do it when he was commissioner. In spite of a $27 million diversion and then another $19 million diversion of projects that didn't come through our development authority but went to Fulton County by our economic director, who they're trying to place in the development authority when there's already a chaotic and untrust and distrust with him in particular, because of what we've gone through. So the bottom line is, I oppose the extra 2 members who we don't even know, who we've never received a resume from. There's no fists done on this financial impact, which means we have to take into consideration the financial impact statement. Was there a financial impact statement done? No. But we still are going to make a decision to add 2 more people because we have 4 votes. We've heard it several times. This is the 4th time. They'll probably get a yes this time. But we've had 4 times where they've sought out to expand this board because the people in control, or the people who seek to be in control, and nepotism, and all of the cronyism, and all of the negativity that has faced our city since our inception, wants control over this $400 million project. We've moved forward. We're not kicking rocks over the $27 million project that our development director diverted to Fulton County. We're not kicking rocks over the $19 million project that we completely never knew anything about that went to Fulton County. We're just asking to let us move on and be great. We're at the helm of something that has never happened on that corridor. And I bet you this dissension that is implemented tonight will kill it.
Let me go to Ms. Roberts. Let me say something before we get there. Let me say something before we get there. The mayor, when he was Fulton County Commissioner, no, he didn't do $400 million. If you check my record for 14 years, it's $3 billion with a B. So I just want to make that clear.
I was next.
You're next.
Well, first of all, we had a employee who's constantly being slandered and bashed by a council member. And if I was that employee, I would sue the crap out of our chair of the Development Authority, because what we do have is a third-party investigation report that outlines that our employee did nothing wrong, that the mayor did nothing wrong, and that I did nothing wrong.
Okay.
But we have an individual that keep going forward.
That wasn't found. That's not a fact.
Mr. Khalid, if you want this gavel, you come up and get it.
And if we keep
But you don't have this, hush. But until you have this gavel, I will run this meeting.
You're doing a horrible job of it, sir.
Well, that's okay. If you think I'm doing too horrible, you can leave.
I moved the previous question.
All right. Move previous question, no second.
But I still had the floor, Mayor, and
You have the floor, but it's going to be germane to what we're talking about.
So what's germane to what we are talking about is that whether a person agrees or disagrees, if we are moving forward to add people, obviously there is a council divided and who wants other people to be added to the Development Authority. There was not a true consensus on who should be on the Development Authority. You're talking about nepotism. You have two fraternity brothers that's on the Development Authority. We did not have a full consensus of who should be on the Development Authority. So we didn't see resumes of everybody that's on the Development Authority. At the end of the day, this Development Authority belongs to the entire city and is supposed to act on behalf of the residents of the entire city, not one individual council member. And so we have made a motion to add 2 individuals to the Development Authority. It has been seconded, and right now, Councilmember Reeves agreed that we should expand the Development Authority. He has an appointee. Mayor, you've added a person on Development Authority. I just think we should vote at this point.
Yeah, but it's an ordinance.
Okay. It's a resolution, not an ordinance. It's the resolution. You want me to pull up what you sent me?
Madam Attorney, can you find
You know, y'all going to have to learn to respect
You let him go on for
this
30
chair.
minutes.
Mr. Khalid, I'll never take that from you again while you sitting on this dais. I'm not going to disrespect you, and you sure not going to disrespect me, regardless of what you think about me or I think about you. Now, at this point in time, was there a motion on the floor, Mr.
Yes,
Clerk?
there was a resolution you sent me, that you sent Councilmember Rao. It failed, and it was to add 2 individuals. What I am asking, what I made a motion to is to add 2 individuals to the Development Authority. The only thing you have to do is bring back that resolution.
Okay, so just to clarify, there's a process. You guys are doing 3 things at one time.
No, because I made an amendment to not add Mr. Pike to the director. Right. I said we'll bring that back later. All I am doing is expanding the Development Authority to 2 individuals, and I named those 2 individuals.
Okay, so if I could just clarify, there's 3 things that were attempted tonight, just for clarity so you guys are clear. One is the discussion about the employees. 2 is the filling of the vacancy for
That's
one
already
member.
been voted on through the consent agenda.
Let her finish.
Let her finish, Ms. Williams.
So 1 is the filling of a vacancy, and 2 is the expansion of the board. Now, if you're going to expand the board, then you have to do that by resolution.
Right.
So I haven't seen the resolution. If we have it here tonight, then you can amend the agenda to put that resolution on the agenda, but you can't expand the authority by motion. You have to have a resolution that creates that
She has
expansion and that names who those
correct.
members are going to be.
She's correct. I'll forward it to you. It's just the same resolution that you sent me.
Yeah, and I prepared it for you previously, so you can easily put it on the agenda, but you just have to have that document that makes that expansion versus through a motion.
Yeah, it was on the agenda before. Go ahead.
You know, it's unfortunate that we're here because it was put on this agenda to be a discussion. To the mayor's credit, he did not want to bring forth a resolution, so we didn't get stuck where we left off at the end of last year.
Corey, you sent it to me.
But when I hear words like nepotism and all those things, whether you know these individuals, I think it's very few people who are in this room who don't know those names that got called out. One sits on the state GDOT board. She represents there. I'm just telling you. The other one represents the GICC. And then my person has over 30 years of commercial lending from SunTrust. And the city attorney will tell you, I didn't interrupt anybody.
Excuse me, but you're getting interrupted. To my right.
I'm just saying, the city attorney will vouch, she had my appointee's resume probably at least 8 or 9 months from the original time, after which time I realized we couldn't expand it. I didn't sit up, I didn't say one word about it. I waited till it became a vacancy. So again, to kind of lump all this in one, we are trying to move forward. That's why it's a discussion item, and we have to stop. The truth of the matter is we need additional expertise on that board. And we just shouldn't be, all this estimation about what relationship, you know, some of that stuff is just made up in people's mind. It's just not fair to everybody who's sitting up here serving. It's just not right.
So are we going to pass a resolution right now that she's about to forward to somebody in the middle of a meeting?
And not to mention the fact, she did hear what you said and put off Mr. Pike's name. Like, everybody missed that part of it. We are so stuck on what we're stuck on, we're not even listening to each other.
What is happening?
I'm just
What's happening? We're waiting on the chair.
There's a motion on the floor.
Mayor, I move that we add the resolution to expand the development authority to the agenda.
Point of order, we're already in a motion.
That's what I asked for.
I'm done with the agenda.
Didn't you say we have to amend the agenda first? And then, or do you want us to go ahead and vote and then send you the resolution? What you want to do?
You would need to agree to amend the agenda to add that item.
You have to add the item.
But there's a motion as to Councilmember Khalid's credit.
Okay,
there is
well,
a
I'll
motion.
withdraw the motion.
Okay, thank you.
To add the development authority, to expand the development authority. I want to add the resolution to amend the development authority to the agenda.
You have to amend the.
I want to amend the regular agenda to add the resolution to expand the development authority.
Is that proper, Madam Attorney? Madam Attorney, is that proper?
Yeah, it's your call. If you want to amend the agenda to add this item, it's your discretion.
Oh, we've done that several times.
Here?
Yes.
So I would like to add, I made the motion, I would like to amend the regular agenda to add the resolution to expand the development authority.
Properly moved in second.
Where is it?
I have discussion.
Go ahead.
I'm sending it to her now.
So, Councilwoman Rowell, you said that we're not listening to each other. I'm listening very intently. You said that our development authority needs expertise. I'm not sure how you know that because you've never attended a meeting. Second, I have the floor. if we're gonna respect each other, Mayor, I need you to make sure that that is equitably done.
Well,
because when you don't do that, you do a horrible job, and you do very often. Do not let you gavel me, but you don't gavel people that are walking around and doing all of these things in the meeting.
Nobody accused me of doing a horrible job, and you continue. We'll be removed from this dais.
Okay. So the next thing that I heard is that Councilwoman Rao, we can play the tape back. She said, "My person." That is the problem with all of our boards and authorities and committees and appointments. We have gotten into this system where everybody appoints a person, their person. I want you to know that I don't have a person on the Development Authority. There is no one from Old National on the Development Authority. That is a decision that I made because I trusted in the negotiation that we had for that, and because we were also supposed to be having a DDA, I was like, I don't think it would be fair to have all of these people. But the point that I am making is every time we create a committee or an authority and each one of us appoints a person of ours, that authority just becomes a proxy for the council. I was in a naming committee last night. It was like a council meeting. People just yelling and arguing, like that's what happens. And so if this passes tonight, and it probably will, because it's going to be, rushed through, and we got these 4 votes by this new gang of 4. But as we have a council member walking around talking to people as we're in discussion about a motion, so it probably will pass tonight. But I sincerely hope going forward, either by statute or legislation or ordinance or just a code of conduct, that we will get out of the habit of, and see, I'm not gonna say what kind of job is being done, but because you all can see it. But that we will get out of the habit of appointing proxies to whatever boards or committees that we have that just fight our battles in another committee. We have got to get out of that. As I said earlier, we are either going to move forward together and turn this page together, or we're going to continue fighting like this. And I would like to note, these kinds of fights that we've been having, if it's a question of leadership, it's 3 years. We're heading into our 3rd anniversary, and these are the kind of council meetings that we've had for the past 3 years. And these are the kind of committees that we set up for the past 3 years. So I hope that we will make some different decisions going forward. And if we do not, I hope you all make some different decisions.
Mayor.
South Fulton forever.
Mayor.
Yes.
I would like to ask that we actually hold this. And the reason why is because we want to make sure that we have the ordinance and resolution in front of us. Instead of this was actually supposed to come on the agenda as a discussion item, and now we're trying to pass a resolution. So I'm going to ask that we can hold this. Are we in the middle of a motion? With resumes that are provided.
Madam Clerk.
Versus us trying to do this. She withdrew her motion. Did she put another motion on?
Yes, there's a motion to amend the agenda to add the resolution to expand the Development Authority. Yes, it was seconded by Councilmember Rao.
We're waiting on it. We're waiting on to get it so we can vote on it.
Everybody can't talk at one time.
I'm fine with rescinding mine.
You rescinding your what? You rescind your second. She takes her second back.
Because I want it to be in order.
All right.
I think it should come back with the resumes. So we're going to do something different in 2020.
All right.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion for us to hold.
Yeah, I'll make sure it gets
this
on the next
item until our next council meeting.
There a second? Second. Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor and Councilmember Reeves, can you please send your resumes of your appointees to the clerk office? And then and the attorney, and then, and also the mayor, and then the resolution, can you bring it back on the 28th with
Yes.
the 25th?
Yeah.
With the appointee.
I'll submit it for that meeting.
Thank you.
Next item.
Been properly moved and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Are you voting
That
to?
passes.
Are you voting to? move it to the next meeting? Yes.
All right, thank you.
That wasn't unanimous. I didn't vote. I voted nay. Why delay the inevitable? Like, this is a waste. Y'all know what's going to happen. It's all cosmetic.
You know, I find it to be very interesting, and I'm going to move on, that people accuse people of doing something that they have done themselves.
Right.
It's unbelievable. But anyway, let's go.
Next item on the agenda is the council approval of the first reading of FY20 budget amendment.
I entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve this.
The first reading.
That's the first reading.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, next item.
Next item, council approval to renumber the 8 fire stations utilizing the numbers 1 through 8 to align with the results of the Georgia Tech study.
Is this the first read?
It's a resolution, right?
Is this an action item?
It's an action item.
All right, I entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the realignment.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? That passes. Was that unanimous?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I thought we didn't do unanimous things in tonight. But go ahead.
When it's not controversial.
The next item is council approval of a facility maintenance agreement, PI 001267, US 29 SR 14, Welcome Road with Georgia DOT. Yes, it is.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to, I
We ain't got there yet.
I'm gonna move that we approve it, but I do have some questions
Okay.
and discussion.
Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
All right. The properly moved and second, we're in discussion. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not too sure what this facility is all about, but what I really am sure about is that the encroachment fee is $1.4 million, and it is due at the signing of this agreement. So I need some clarification about what this is, why it's now, why it's so expensive, and any other details that are pertinent to it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't believe it's $1.4 million.
I'm looking at it, it's right here on page 213. This facility encroachment agreement, is that where we are? We're the last item on the agenda, correct?
That's correct.
Isn't that the item?
Our attorney is looking into it. But typically, this agreement is just to for the maintenance of the signal of walkable at Roosevelt Highway. So we maintain that signal, and that's what it states. The state typically calls it a facility. It's not a facility.
On page 213, number 2, encroachment fee, inspection fee.
So if I could clarify, what you're looking at is the agreement that was entered into between CSX Transportation and the state of Georgia regarding just the creation of this railroad space.
Okay.
The agreement that you would be entering into is, it stops on page 210. So it's page 207 through 210, where you're agreeing to basically a standard facility maintenance agreement, saying that because of the money that was expended by the state of Georgia to maintain this facility, to create and contract with the railroad to create the railroad space, that you will, as the jurisdictional authority, maintain the structure.
And so is there any cost associated with this?
Well,
With
you would be
maintaining
required for the maintenance. And you can opt out of it within 30 days, but
Typically, those maintenance agreements for any signal, it varies from $4,000 to $8,000.
Okay.
It's a regular maintenance for every signal that we have.
Okay. But I just don't see any dollar amount in it at all.
Yes, the state doesn't provide any of those things because we don't know. We just take care of the maintenance. Maybe sometimes just a failure of the signal, maybe it's something minimum, so there's not a dollar amount, it's just typical maintenance.
So what happens is the maintenance burden is passed on to the city. The cost of the maintenance might be zero for the year 2020 because the signal may continue to work. It may be a light that's out in the signal that costs you $800. It may be the casing of the signal goes out or is no longer in its usable life and it costs you $1,500. But whatever that cost is, it becomes the cost of maintenance. So it's the same with a pothole. If a pothole is small, it might cost you $600. If it's humongous, it might cost you $1,800. But regardless of what the price is, the burden is on the city to maintain it, because now that we're a city, that maintenance is passed on to us. This agreement just allows us to take on the burden of maintenance.
So there's absolutely no way of estimating what it is, so we could have something in the budget for it?
So we have estimated those costs in both our Jacobs agreement and our public works budget, and so it's covered in those areas. But the actual cost of maintenance, we don't know. And unfortunately, we don't have a baseline because this is our first year in full. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So, this is a general question. I know one of the things that's been a big issue for me is, you know, we were looking at GDOT and piggybacking on their contract to improve the right-of-way along state. Where's all that? I'm trying to figure it out before.
So now that's separate than this. So this is the maintenance of those traffic signals, and so
it's only traffic signals.
Yeah, so that's what this agreement is for. Yes, ma'am. So it's not maintaining. So GDOT maintains all the lights on the state routes, and I believe they had an agreement with Fulton County, and Fulton County's name was on it to maintain those that were in what was unincorporated Fulton County. Now that the city is in place, it is our responsibility, and so this agreement actually covers that. It's not about the right-of-ways and things of that nature. But to answer your question, and I know it's not germane, so I'll be quick, we're working on bringing that back just as a reminder for the mid-year budget. Potholes and increased right-of-way services. Yes, ma'am.
So again, dealing with the traffic lights, what about like Camp Creek? That's a state route. Are we taking that over as a county? Where are we with all that? Because that's not the only.
The state still maintains those signals.
They still maintain. This is the only road that it doesn't apply to.
On Camp Creek, you have the local roads like Eno Road, you have Camp Creek, Butner Road, Merck Miles, and Campbellton Road.
Right.
So it's a type of assistance that we provide between the city and the state. Whoever comes fast there, it's a mixed type of support that we provide. Yes, it's shared maintenance.
Okay.
But the majority is done by the state. But with regards to Mr. Donald and your question on, with the rights-of-way maintenance on the state routes, the state still maintaining the rights-of-way, but the difference is that we do every 30 days and the state does every 45 days. So we have 15 days gap between what we do and what they do. That's something that we're trying to work out with the state on how we can alleviate at what cost and so on to narrow down to the 30 days.
I'm good. I just wanted to understand what about other state routes and like, so I'm good.
Okay.
We'll do Ms. Willis and we'll vote.
I saw a rendering for a roundabout, and is this going to be relative to the intersection at Washington and Roosevelt Highway, where GDOT is also going to negotiate with CSX to purchase right-of-way for that roundabout, for that integrate and upgrade?
So I think that's a question we may need to follow up with you. That's a little outside of this agreement. Yeah, so we would likely need to follow up with you directly, and we can send that information to the full council. But this piece is just on traffic.
Okay, you did see the rendering in here for it though, right? The roundabout rendering?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you just, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
We'll make sure, yes, ma'am. We'll make sure to do that.
Okay, let's vote. That passes.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Oh, we got executive session?
There's a motion on the floor.
All right. Let's vote. This meeting's adjourned.
Updates, right? And you gave those updates, didn't you? Didn't you give those updates, Ms. Walker? You gave those updates.
I wanted to talk about the IGA and
You talked
the
about
contract.